Thank you.
I know the intent was to push this back until after 8 o'clock when the program goes off the air, but I would like to add comment about the Rainbow Lounge raid that happened on Sunday morning, very early. I would actually like to know, well, do we have any answers? We know when answers and when investigations will be concluded on this, and have any independent investigations been launched outside of anything internal? We're also interested in, there seem to be quite a few inconsistencies with information to be put out in public. For example, the reason for the raid, who ordered the raid. Outside of that, I think the most important issue is the fact that we had a young man in the hospital. So I think the question of excessive force used in this raid is, well, there is no question. What exactly is your department doing about this, sir?
Well, this is going to be a lengthy answer, but let me get to the primary topic that you brought up. Yes, Monday morning, an internal investigation was ordered. I've already called the dad of Chad, Mr. Gibson. We talked in detail yesterday. He's very comfortable with what's occurring within the police department. Now, this is the father of a young man that was there. As far as the indiscrepancies, I have put a plea out to anyone that was within the lounge that saw any activity they thought was unprofessional, excessive, what they thought would be uncharacteristic for that type of activity, to come forward. I published a phone number for the Internal Affairs Division. As of this morning at 11 a.m., I had 2 people call. We are begging for information. If you had seen something that was inappropriate, excessive, however you felt, please come forward. That's how we conduct our investigation. The lack of information that comes forward, that does not help us. But I would want to say that the word raid has been used over and over and over. This was a mere walking inspection. There were 3 employees that went in first. Let me finish my answer. 3 employees that went in first. If someone knows otherwise, we want you to call. But when they go through, keep in mind, we had 2 separate dialogues with the man that claims he's the owner of the bar. We were going to be there Thursday night after midnight. That was the last stop that we were going to inspect with TABC. We did not have a supervisor in the parking lot. The employees decided it's not a good night to do the walkthrough inspection. Keep in mind the term walkthrough inspection. Saturday morning, the owner called one of our on-duty sergeants. They coordinated that night that Saturday night would be a good night for them to show up, do the walkthrough inspection. Keeping in mind there's 2 other locations prior to this location. And the reason we wanted to go there last, it's a brand new establishment. Our job is not to walk in there with any ideas of finding the owner. We want to educate the owner. We want to talk to the employees. This is our mission on walkthrough inspections. But within the first 2 minutes of the employees, 2 of them in full uniform, were touched inappropriately, that changed the dynamic of what was occurring with those 2 employees. They immediately made those arrests. Now, all the other arrests were public intoxication. We did not file charges for the assault on the officer because we understood the position the patrons were in. But this has escalated on the internet. It has escalated within blogs and Twitters and everything else that we have to deal with as a profession. But the facts are going to be more revealed as to who is involved with what. There were 2 law enforcement agencies that were involved here. Our investigation has already concluded, and I talked with the director of TABC this afternoon twice. Our investigation leads 90% accuracy. I only need 1 more person to talk to make it 100%. That TABC agents made contact with Mr. Gibson. It was not a Fort Worth police employee. There are photos that show this as well. So we have made great strides in the advance of this investigation, but you're expecting a very detailed investigation from your police department, and I'm demanding it. But those detailed investigations, they take time. And I know that immediate answers you're wanting, but when I talked to Mr. Gibson, he was extremely satisfied that I took time out of my schedule. I wanted to call him personally because I wanted him to know we've already started an internal investigation. Any acts of misconduct reported from the community will be addressed. but that does take time. I can apologize for how long it takes, but I will not release an impartial and incomplete investigation because there are safety at risk, there's a mission of the police department, there's a relationship with a state agency, and remember our goal when we coordinated with the owner was we wanted to educate them on what we're going to be looking for because we want safe and productive businesses. And I will emphasize this to the strongest degree. Not one person, not one location was ever targeted because of race, gender, sexuality, location within the city. Absolutely none of that. If you look at the first 2 stops that we made in conjunction with the ABC, primarily Hispanic bars, but they were generated from complaints from the community. 9 arrests total were made from that. At the conclusion of that shift, we wanted to go forth and we wanted to look at one more location because low-key walkthrough inspection, educational contact, when we already had communication with the owner, but it turned sideways as soon as we made entry into the bar. But we did not hold that against those people that did that, and we didn't charge them. But I'm sorry I took so long, but I wanted to answer the 2 things about what is being done and then who's taking responsibility. We're almost close to defining exactly who, and we're waiting for the director of TABC to issue an official press release about who did what.
Is it routine during a walkthrough to arrive with a paddy wagon and zip ties ready to arrest people?
Well,
Is it routine to manhandle someone who is intoxicated? The photographs, which you mentioned that are online, show 3 officers who are holding someone who is too intoxicated to stand. Why did it take 3 officers to hold that person to the ground? And the fact is, he walked out of there with a head injury. That, in no way, shape, or form, tells me that the police officers were doing their job. This was an act of violence, and there's no way around it.
Okay. Did anyone in here physically see Mr. Gibson assaulted? There is the challenge we're facing. The other thing is, yes, they're not called paddy wagons. We got out of those phrases. Prisoner transport van is the nice way to talk about now. We had those 2 because we had 9 arrests in the other locations. So we had other transports in process. Zip ties, you bet. Zip ties are, I know that there's not really a comfortable way in which you can have your wrist secured, but that's the one when you have intoxication effects. Those nylon zip ties are the fastest and safest way to keep hands from being moved. We don't prefer the strong handcuffs. And keep in mind, sometimes you're detaining 10 at a time so you can do an assessment as to what an intoxication level is. But no, it wasn't brought with the intent of, oh boy, here we come. Absolutely not. Remember, we did have 9 arrests at the prior 2 locations.
That's all well and good. I would just say that with an internal investigation still going on, you're offering plenty of conclusions. Is that a little unusual for an ongoing investigation?
No, all the statements I'm making are facts. Remember, I asked...
According to you.
I'm sorry, what?
According to you, these are facts. There are people who are disputing that. There's a whole community crying out that that is not what happened.
I understand that. How many of them have come?
That's the problem.
Okay, how many of those employees have come to the police department, interviewed with an internal affairs detective supervisor, and given us statements? Right now, when I say we are going off the facts, it is multiple police officers that made those statements that's already been documented in a report. Sharon, where did you go? Did you need to do a cut for time?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I am moving around the room. Ladies and gentlemen, I do see your hands. I will try to get to you as soon as possible. Okay?
My name is Selena Solis, and I'm the manager for the Brentwood Apartments. And basically, this is